Hey, what's happening, guys? You're here with Matt Stirling again today, and today we're going to talk about cracking the carb code and 10x methods for improving your insulin sensitivity. So I'm just going to break down 3 ways that you can improve your insulin sensitivity so that you can better utilize your carbohydrates. For many reasons. For one, so if you're trying to build muscle, you want to do that. If you're trying to maximize fat loss, then you're going to want to obviously maximize your insulin sensitivity. So I'll try and just keep this short and sweet today and make it real simple. But number 1 on the list is carb cycling. Okay? So, number 1. So why is carb cycling number 1 on my list? Well, because for you, the user, you get to simply customize your carbohydrates to what you're doing, right? And how you look. So just put it this way. If you have a day where you're not going to be very active, right? Why would you have the same amount of carbs on an inactive day as you would on a very active day? If we just really simplified it like that. If we weren't looking at, are you doing high volume training? Are you doing strength training? Are you doing HIIT training and only cardio today? If we just looked at that simple, question there, that would be one of the simplest reasons why carb cycling is a very effective way. So, and just so we are all on the same page, carb cycling is just simply having various days of carbohydrate consumption that is changing based on your needs, right? So you have your low days, and you have your medium carb days, and you have your high carb days. So it just makes sense that if I'm not going to be very active today, or if I'm looking to burn more fat today, then I would probably go towards a low carbohydrate day, right? And then I could use the medium carbohydrate day as a transition period between the low and the high day. So why is that important? Because it gives you a chance, a buffer to see what happens when I introduce a lot more carbs into my diet. Do I, spill over? Do I feel kind of crappy? Or do I feel really good and I can handle some more? Well, then you would go to the high carb day, right? And then what is the high carb day used for? Well, that would be your high volume training days, or if you're, a long distance runner, then you'd want to have those high carb days, and that, that kind of thing. Or if you're feeling a little bit flat, if you're a bodybuilder and you're looking to fill out, you're going to want to go towards the medium and high carb days to fill back out, right? So carb cycling, in that sense, is very, very effective. So if I've, for the average person out there, if they go out over the course of the weekend and they kind of kill it with lots of carbohydrates, they went to a wedding and they had cake and they had drinks and this and that, you can easily go from what would be considered on a weekend like that, a high carbohydrate weekend, to a low carbohydrate Monday, and maybe Tuesday, and maybe Wednesday, and just deplete the carbohydrates and the glycogen out of your muscles. It's very simple. And by doing so, you're going to improve your insulin sensitivity, right? So the next time you take in carbohydrates again, you're going to be more likely to store them as glycogen and not as fat, right? So that's why we can't have too many high carb days in a row. Your muscles are like a gas tank. If I went to my car and I went to go fill it up with gas, it's only going to get so full before it spills over. So glycogen going into your muscle is the same thing. You can only absorb so much and then it spills over. But when it spills over in the human, it usually ends up being fat, right? So that's my number 1, carb cycling. The next one would be anaerobic activity, right? So doing anaerobic activity, so without oxygen, it's simple. It's the fuel that we use, right? So some ideas of that would be high volume resistance training and also doing HIIT training, right? So let's just touch on that for a second. So HIIT, high intensity interval training. So this is a great way to improve your insulin sensitivity, just this alone, right? So if you look at that, what does that look like? That could be, sprints that last anywhere from 10 to 40 seconds and doing cycles of that and giving yourself enough time to recover. So it's a very time effective way, and it's good for the energy sources that it dumps out, being glycogen, right? So definitely have this. This would be a number 2 for sure. Another tip with doing HIIT training, especially for the women out there that are trying to dump the body fat off their bodies, is to even add in a few cycles of HIIT before they do their resistance training, right? So you start releasing fatty acids, and then you go through your weight training, and you're just going to burn those up, right? Another tip if you're doing HIIT training is, and you're also doing resistance training, is to separate the two of them, right? So try and have at least 4 to 6 hours between the two, if you can, right? I know that time doesn't always allow for that, but it's gonna allow you to maximize both sessions, right? And then for our next one, number 3, that would be timing of carbohydrates. And this one we can go pretty far with this one. There's a lot, but I'll just keep it simple and we'll talk about some simple stuff here. I think when it comes to timing, consider this. If you're a guy that's over 10 or 12% body fat and a lady that's over 20% or 22%, I'm gonna go even further than that. If you're just not where your body fat, if your body fat is not where you want it to be, then I would consider the timing of your carbohydrates, but not only just that, also how are you starting off your day, right? So think of this, the body is always burning fat for fuel, regardless. It's always burning fatty acids for fuel to some capacity, but are you always mobilizing fat? So here's the thing, when it comes to insulin, as soon as you turn on your insulin switch, right, then you stop mobilizing fat. So that's not good, right? Especially if your body fat is not where you want it to be. So when it comes to timing and starting off my day, if I'm trying to drop body fat, the most ideal situation would be to try and burn body fat all day, right? So in order to do that, starting off your day with carbohydrates would not be optimal, right? So you'd want to have a high fat breakfast, good protein, have your greens in there to alkalize the system, lots of water, all that kind of stuff, and then push your carbohydrates to later on in the day. That way, you'll mobilize and burn fat for the majority of the day. And then the next thing to that with timing is, if we look at your workout, when are you working out? Well, I would say the same thing. Push it to later on in the afternoon, right? Your natural circadian rhythm, as far as your body temperature and protein synthesis being most optimal, is actually between 3 and 5 p.m., all right? As long as you have everything else in check. So move your workout to then, and then you can have your carbohydrates after that. And you're gonna be much more likely to store them as glycogen, and you'll be burning fat all day, right? So those are my 10X methods for you guys. Take those away. If you guys have any questions, leave them below. And if you liked the video, of course, give it a thumbs up. And then subscribe to the channel, because I'm gonna have more of this stuff. So we're really just starting off with the videos. These are some of the questions I've been getting is, again, like, what the heck do I do with my carbohydrates? I'm trying to get lean, or I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to go through a bulking program, but I don't want to be getting fat. Do I have to do the forever bulk and just eat everything? There's tons of questions around all this stuff. So I want to hear from you guys, all right? And then also, for more tips and 10X methods for improving your insulin sensitivity, check out just above in the annotation. I have a free book, a report. I believe it's 18 pages. And then otherwise, if you can't see the link, then go down below and we'll leave a link there for you too. And then you can just pick it up. You just got to drop your email, and then you can get the free report. Okay? So thanks, guys.